Lolly Newsom. I'm excited to welcome you guys to this class on music ear training for beginners. It's called Tone Deaf No More, Music Ear Training for Beginners. It's part of our AMP online masterclass series sponsored by the Chestnut Family Foundation. I invite all of you to participate in the chat function and to use the question and answer function if you like. You can always let us know if you have any questions in the chat. For this class, it's also important to have headphones in or to have your volume turned up because there will be listening exercises, and always let us know if you're having trouble hearing the piano or if you're having trouble hearing anything that's coming through the microphone. Please have pencil and paper out so you can take notes and answer the questions. Also, if you want to answer the questions in real time, many of you have been doing this in previous classes, but make sure that you select it to go to all panelists instead of all panelists and attendees, so that when we go over questions, you don't give away the answer to people while they're still trying to figure it out. But yeah, you're welcome to answer the questions in real time and throw it in the chat box to the panelists so that we get an idea of how you guys are doing. And we'll be asking questions periodically. We'll, ask, how are you guys doing? How was that exercise? Was it too difficult, too easy? Yeah, so we'll have chances to interact with us with the chat. This class is part 4 of a 7-part class. So we've got 4 more classes on Mondays at 5 p.m. So please tune in next week and the future weeks. And yeah, thank you guys for being here. Mr. Logan, take it away.
All right, so you guys probably remember interval writing from the classes previous. So that's what we're going to start off with today. So name these intervals. Is it a unison, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, or an octave? So remember in doing this, I'll give you a hint. We count all of the notes involved. The first, all of the notes in between, and the last. So for number 3, for instance, we'll have a 1, 2, 3. That'll be a third. So go ahead, write these intervals down, these notes the way that I've got them. There's 8 total. Go ahead and mark those down and then supply your answers as to the name of the interval. Is it a unison, unison, second, third, fourth, etc.? So take a moment, if you could, to work on that, please. This is our warm-up for today. So no matter how the interval is written, sometimes they'll be separated, sometimes they'll be stacked on top of each other. You always need to count all of the notes involved. Bottom, all the notes in between, to the top. Let's take just a little bit longer to work on these, and then we'll go over them and then get into some of our listening exercises.
We had, since that we started this exercise, we had a couple people join, probably like 4 or 5 people. Just so you all know, in this exercise, you're going to be writing the interval between the 2 notes that are written for each exercise, for each number. And yeah, if you want to send us your answers, you can send them to all panelists and we'll be able to see how you did. Or you can just write them down and we'll go over it in a minute. And yeah, let us know what you thought.
So just a little bit longer. All right. Let's start working on it. You can keep working if you need to finish it, but let's go ahead and start reviewing and going over these. So you'll see here, I changed the direction of the stem so that it doesn't confuse anybody. If you write a note above this third line, on or above this third line, that's usually when you start writing the note with the stem pointing down. So that's why I changed that there. So let's go ahead and count the distance between these notes, an E to a D. So we'll count E, F, G, A, B, C, and D. So what does that give us? E to D. That gives us the interval of a seventh. Interval of a seventh. Let's go on. Looks like we have here G to G. G to G. You probably know the answer, but let's do the math. G, A, B, C, D, E, F, and G at the top. That gives us an octave. So with octaves, we don't, as we've said, we don't call those eighths. We call them octaves. I gave you guys the answer for the third there. Counting the interval here, we have A, B, C, D, and E. So we have to use both the top one and the bottom one. So it's not a fourth, but it is a fifth. Going on from C to A, C, D, E, F, G, A. That gives us there the sixth. Number six, starting at E, E to A, E, F, G, A. A fourth. Here we have two notes on the same pitch. Two notes on the same pitch. We call that unison. Not first, but unison. And 1, 2, A to B. That gives us a second, an interval of a second. All right, so this is our warm-up. As we start to learn all of the intervals and to practice listening for them, by the end of today, we'll be listening for every interval up until an octave. Up until an octave. And then we'll start adding some more elements into the mix next time. All right, so this is practice reading intervals. Now let's get into listening to some intervals. All right, so this is all going away now. So what are the intervals that we've learned so far? We know the unison, which sounds like this, sounds like two notes of the same pitch. So here's the sound of the unison. Two notes of unison pitch. Here's another note with a unison interval. There's unison. We also know the interval of a second. Second sounds like this. It's one whole step above. Or at another pitch. There's the sound of the second. As I'm playing this, make sure you're really listening carefully and trying to get this into your ear. So we go all the way up unison to fifth. And then our next exercise is going to be choosing which interval you're hearing. So really try to get the idea, the sound of these intervals in your mind before we go into our exercise. So we know unison. Here's unison. We know a second. We know a third. Third sounds like the beginning of an arpeggio. We know unison, second, and third. We can identify those orally with our ears. We know also the interval of a fourth. Sounds like the very beginning of "Oh Christmas Tree," right? Or "Here Comes the Bride," etc. So here's the interval of a unison, a second, a third, a fourth, and lastly that we've worked on so far, the sound of a fifth, which sounds like this. Sounds like the beginning of "Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star." So listen carefully before we drill these. Here is unison. Here is a second. Here is a third. Here's fourth. Listen for "Here Comes the Bride" or "Oh Christmas Tree." And here is a fifth. Think "Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star." All right, so those are our options now. We're going to do a set of 10 questions. I'll play the intervals, and then you guys write, is it unison, second, third, fourth, or fifth? So we're only using these ones that we've learned here. So number your papers up to 10 if you could, please. Oops. Up to 10, I'm going to play different arrangements of unison, second, third, fourth, or fifth. Then we'll check them all together at the end. All right, here is number 1. Name the interval. All right, and keep it out of the chat box for now, then we'll go over it together in a little bit. All right, here is number 2. Number 3. All right, here is number 4. Number 5. Number 6. All right, number 7. With some of these, it might be helpful for you guys to hum along or sing the pitches that I'm playing, so you can start to think about what song it might match up with. Number 8. Number 9. And number 10. One last time. All right, let's go over them now, please. So go ahead and check your work. As we're doing this, let me know how this was for you. Hard, easy, piece of cake? Do we need to spend more time with these intervals? Please let me know in the chat. All right, so number 1 was a second. 2, a third. Number 2 was a third. Number 3 was a fourth. You might have caught on to the pattern for these first few. Number 4 was a fifth. And number 5 was unison. Number 6 was a second. Number 7 was a fourth. Number 8 was a fifth. 9 was a fifth. And number 10 was a third. All right. How do we do? Easy or hard? I think that's kind of what I really want to know. How did you guys do on these? I mean, do we need to spend easy, good? Good. It's okay if we don't all feel the same way.
All right.
All right, so far so good. This all looked good. Good. Well, we're going to keep practicing. We're going to keep building on the intervals that we know so far each time. So these are not going away. This is just a drill for practice. But let's get rid of this and let's work on another drill. So we'll review a lot of what we've worked on today, the past few days. Sorry, I'm getting tongue-tied. We'll review what we have been learning. So the next one up is going to be half step or whole step. You guys know that. I'll play a half step. Really crunchy and nasty. Or whole step, which is the same as a second. So half step or whole step. All right, so we'll do a round of, let's see, whoops. This will go a little bit more quickly than the last drill, so we'll really go fast on these since we've been working on this every single class. So these will move a little bit more quickly. We'll do 8. So number your paper for 8. Your answers will look like half, H, or W for whole step. So H or W, half step, or whole step. All right, here we go. We're gonna move through these a little more quickly now. Here's number 1. Number 2. Number 3. Number 4. Number 5. Number 6. Number 7. And number 8. All right. Let me know how you did. Number 1 was a half step, H. Number 2, whole step. Number 3, half step. Number 4 was a half step. Number 5, whole step. 6, half step. 7, whole step. And 8 was also a whole step. Half step and whole step can be kind of tricky. Sometimes trickier than unison through fit. So how are we doing half step, whole step? Good, bad?
Good. A couple people got all of them right. Some people got 1, maybe 2 wrong. I think a lot of people got all of them right.
Good, very good. So this is all shaping up really nicely. Let's do another one for review. Again, we'll go through this pretty quickly, just out of review. So we talked a little bit about some harmonies last week. Major sounds kind of happy, or minor sounds kind of sad. Major or minor. So that's what we're going to listen for now. Let's do 8 of these again. And for your answers here, for major, we'll do a capital M, big M for major, or a lowercase m for minor. All right, so big M for major, little m for minor. And we'll do 8 of those. We'll go kind of quickly through this again before moving on. So major or minor. All right, number 1. Number 2. Number 3. Number 4. number 5. Number 6. Number 7. And number 8. All right, let's see how we did here. Number 1 was big M, major. Number 2, little m, minor. Number 2 is minor. Number 3, major. Number 4, minor. Number 5, minor. Number 6, major. Number 7, minor. Number 8, major. How are we doing with major and minor? Good?
People did well.
Good. So even if you don't get all of these right, this is okay. That's okay for what we're doing. This class is all about practice and developing your ear. That's why we call it ear training. So think about this like coming to practice for sports or to rehearsal for music. So that's what we're doing here. It's okay if it's not perfect, but as long as we're building on some skills that we've already learned the last few weeks, then I would say that it's a success. So very good, very good. Let's move on. So we know intervals unison through fifth. Let's learn 6, 7, and 8 now, if we could.
And some songs you guys can use to remember major and minor thirds. A song that starts with major third is When the Saints Go Marching In, oh, when the Saints, and minor third, there's Green Sleeves. What child is this? So those are some songs that start with major and minor thirds.
6, 7, and 8. So that's what we're going to do next. If we're in treble clef, the interval of a sixth look like this. The interval of a seventh looks like this. The interval of an octave looks like this. So let's listen to the sixth first. So that, if you don't recognize it, what I was taught when learning this interval is the NBC theme. So when you're watching the news, some of you might not recognize that. But let's compare that to the interval of a fifth. So if a fifth sounds like this, think Twinkle Twinkle. Here's the sound of a sixth, just a one step higher. There's the sixth, the one that's a little bit higher. If we go up another whole step, that gives us what we call a major seventh. Or we can have what's called a dominant seventh. Right now we'll use major seventh. We'll just call it seventh for now. So if we take that seventh, that upper note, that B, well, what would happen if we took that down an octave? We would have a B natural going to a C. B natural going to a C. That gives us a half step, right? So with that seventh, with that major seventh, you still get a little bit of that crunchy sound because it's just like a half step if we take that lower note up an octave. So here's a half step. If we take that B natural up, that gives us the major seventh, the seventh. Here's a 6. Here's the 7. And this will sound so much nicer to the ears, the octave. So here the vibrations are double the speed, so that means the note sounds in perfect, I want to say unison, but it's the same note up an octave. 6, 7, and the octave. Seventh and octave. All right, so let's drill some of these. Let's just do it for practice and let's see how we do. We've got 8 of these again. So we'll use 6, 7, and octave. So number your paper for 8, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Before we drill, listen one more time. Here is a 6th. Here's a 7th. And an octave. All right, let's give it a shot. Here's number 1. Number 2. And number 3. Number 4 now. Number 5. Number 6. And number 7. And number 8. All right, so I anticipate that this one was a little bit trickier than the exercises that we've done so far because it's new. But let me know how you guys did. We'll go over it now. Number 1 was a sixth. Number 2 was a seventh. Number 3 was an octave. Number 4 was a sixth. Number 5, seventh. Number 6 was an octave. Number 7, the seventh. And number 8 was an octave. So let's review how those sound one more time. So here's a sixth, sixth. Here's the seventh. And last, here's an octave. All right, good. I see some good things there. It's okay if you missed a couple. Totally all right. This is hard stuff. So if you guys feel like you're being challenged but are still doing well and keeping up, that's excellent. That's very good. Very happy to hear that. Everything we do is going to keep building off of these intervals that we've learned. All right, so we've talked a little bit about chords, major and minor. So we can make a change. Let me back up. So if we have a major chord, you hear that a minor chord sounds darker and sounds sad, but we only change one note. Now if we take a minor chord and change the top note down, we get what's called a diminished chord, and it's really tight and really crunchy, the whole chord. We call that a diminished chord. Here's a minor, like we've learned before. Here's a diminished chord. They're closely related, but not quite the same. Minor. There's a diminished chord. We'll talk next week about what makes a major, minor, and diminished, etc. We'll also talk about that in music theory, so you guys need to make sure you come to both of the classes, because now they're starting to converge. The stuff that we're learning is new in both classes. So this is the sound of what we call a diminished chord. Diminished chord. If we're starting with a minor, it'll be C, E flat, it'll be G flat on top. We'll call that diminished. But really just for now, get the sound of it in your ears. Now if we do the same thing, a similar thing with a major chord. Here's a major chord. We're going to change that top note to go a little bit higher now. Here's a major. We'll change one note up higher. That's what we call an augmented chord. So if we start with a major chord and move the top note higher, that's what we call an augmented chord, diminished and augmented. So next to each other, they sound very different. Here's a diminished chord. Here's an augmented chord. Diminished, augmented. So this is all new material, but we're going to drill in the last few minutes. We're going to drill 4 of these just to have a little bit of practice with them. Let's just do 4. Let's see how we do. number 1 to 4. So for your answer, you can put a D or A. The sound of the diminished chord is this. The sound of the augmented chord. Very different. But let's have a try at it. All right, so here is 1, 2, 3, and 4. Here's number 1. Here's number 2. Here is number 3. Here's number 4. And one last time. All right, now please let me know in the chat how that was. Number 1 was diminished, number 2 was augmented, number 3 was diminished, and number 4 was augmented. So D, A, D, A. So this stuff, we're starting to get into some pretty advanced stuff. This is stuff that you'll be learning in your first college classes for oral skills. So if you guys are really doing a good job with this, that's excellent. So this is kind of the direction we'll start working on. So as you guys know, we work on ear training with melody, rhythm, and now harmony. So we're covering all the bases. Any last questions before we finish for today?
Let's see. I don't see any specific questions. A lot of people got those right, which is great. That's really good. I'm curious if anybody has a part of the class that they thought was the most difficult, if you want to put that in the chat. If it's the rhythm stuff or if it's the harmonies, the intervals. Yeah, let me know which one you thought was most difficult. Or if there's something that you wanted to spend more time on. Yeah, let us know. See questions.
Tritone, we'll talk about those sort of things in coming classes. So right now we've learned 2nd, 3rd, 4th, etc. as we've been practicing today, but we also can get a little bit more specific. There's major third. Whoops. Major third is the one that we've learned so far. We also have what we call minor third. So we've learned 4th. Here's a perfect 4th. If we raise that pitch up, we have what's called an augmented 4th or a diminished 5th. There's the tritone. That's all the stuff that we're going to worry about next time. So now a lot of music theory. We'll have to start bringing in a lot of music theory to explain the things that we're talking about now. All right, I think that's all we've got time for, but thank you guys. It's been a great class, and you guys are all doing an excellent job.
You guys are doing really awesome. Just to recap, this is part 4 of a 7-part series with Mr. Logan. So we'll have 3 more classes after this. So the next 3 weeks minus Memorial Day. And these classes are cumulative. That said, they are also all on our YouTube channel. So if you are missing 1 or 2 of the classes, or if you just want to go back and watch any of our master classes, music theory and the other master classes, they're all on there. Yeah, we definitely encourage students that come to this class to also come to the class at 4 p.m. right before this. It definitely helps to be in both classes. We have some classes coming up. Let's see, we have 2 violin classes tomorrow at 4 and 5 p.m., intermediate and advanced violin. And we have some brass master classes coming up this week on Wednesday and Thursday for horn, trumpet, and trombone. And you can find the information for all these classes, including this music theory class, on our Facebook page and also through our email blast. So yeah, please come to next week's class, and we are happy that you guys came today.
All right, thank you. We'll see you next time.